now joined by SinnBodhi of the Freak Show Wrestling. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. I know you got a big event coming up, and you know Hunter from the world famous Gwar turned us on to you guys, and I'm glad he did. You've got some amazing things going on here, and definitely going to be talking about your event coming up, and of course everything that's happening. I know you got a special place that you just moved into in Vegas, so we want to hear all about that. But why don't you take us back to the beginning, growing up? You know, what was it that really intrigued you about wrestling or monsters or freak shows that led you to create this?
Boy, that's an easy question. I was an artsy fartsy little introvert that was raised on a small little horse ranch on the outskirts of my home city of Toronto. So it was always like an ordeal for mom and dad to drop little old me off after school to go play with the kids. So that was sort of like maybe a once a week kind of outing. So for the most part, I was stuck in front of the TV set watching cartoons and movies and reading comic books. So I mean, I was pretty much weaned on various Spider-Man, Green Goblin, Joker, Batman, and if it was live action stuff, it was wrestling. And I figured that just to me it was like the reality version of comic books. Like it was one and the same, just one was on paper and one was on the TV.
Sure.
I figured, I was totally hooked. So I just figured since I didn't have any discernible superpowers, I was going to grow up to be a pro wrestler.
Wow. And what were some of the initial moves you made to, make the steps to creating this freak show wrestling?
Oh boy, well, when I was an itty bitty little circus runaway, I literally ran off and joined the circus. I learned how to wrestle. I hit the road, and I was like Bugs Bunny, squiggling and wiggling around the map. I went everywhere. I slept in my car, traveled, from to hell and back, just learning my craft and getting in the ring with anybody that would have me. And I was a bigger dude, and I was a scarier looking guy, so I was a cheap put in to wrestle a lot of the big name guys, like on these sort of like on the independent circuit, so to speak. Yep. A lot of guys, especially in the yesteryear, would bring in these legends, and sometimes some of them were pretty expensive, and they could only afford to have one. So who really wanted to watch one legend take on some glass jaw guy that was going to get ate up and you knew it in 5 seconds?
Right.
So I looked like a contender, so to speak. So I'm like, all right, well, Sin looks like he could hang with Road Warriors or Kamala or King Kong Bundy or Jake the Snake or whoever they're putting him in the ring with. And even though I was totally wet behind the ears and still learning, I just absorbed knowledge from these performers like a sponge, and it was just an awesome ride. And got to travel the planet and see all sorts of crazy, weird, and wonderful things. And I think I earned my moniker of being the Warlord of Weird. I mean, I've traveled and wrestled at the biggest shows. I've been in the craziest circuses. I've been, WWE, Jim Rose Circus. It doesn't get any wilder than both of those shows.
Sure.
But once I got to WWE, and that was where I wanted to live my dream. That was like my boyhood dream was being there. That's where Roddy Piper and Macho Man and Jake the Snake and Hulk Hogan and all these guys came before me.
Yeah.
So now in real life, I get to pitch stuff to writers and road producers and what have you, and they all just looked at me like, "That's too freaking crazy. We can't do that on TV. We can't do this. We can't do that. We can't do this. We can't do that." And then finally, my dream kind of turned into this sort of just this, I don't know, for lack of a better term. And next thing you know, I'm out on my own, doing my own thing, just because I can do what I want if I've got the reins. Like so many things, I'm sure lots of other wrestlers, pitch to do, and whether it's their sort of vanilla board of directors and they don't want it to happen because they've got all these different things to answer to and what have you, and advertisers and all this jazz. So I just decided Freak Show Wrestling was going to be everything inside of my brain, unabashed, and
sure.
Nobody would tell me to do or not to do. I would do as I chose. And
any of us that's grown up, with WWE, obviously, you can tell how corporate or, it's a public company. They've got to report to their shareholders and their, like you say, their sponsors and all that. So as crazy as it gets, they obviously have limits.
Yes.
But what you're doing, obviously, your whole concept is limitless and really, capture the imagination of the fans of like I say, freak shows and monsters and all that. Now, growing up, obviously you're a wrestling fan. Uh, were you also a follower of the circus freak shows and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I was, enamored with all of that stuff, and I just as a child, my brain was just running wild, wondering what is all this stuff out there. I mean, I came from a pretty vanilla background. Like my mom was a school teacher, my dad was a salesman. They weren't into all sorts of crazy stuff. They weren't punk rockers that dragged me to shows, and I wasn't privy to seeing all these different weird things or whatever. I sort of had to kind of go venture out and find this weird, wonderful lifestyle, and just sort of it kind of found me as much as I found it. And seeing all this stuff, and I was just intrigued by it, and I just thought, well, wrestling by itself, as a little kid, I was enamored by it, and seeing all these crazy performers like Roddy Piper and Jake the Snake and Macho Man, who were larger than life. But then I saw all these, circus sideshow things and freak show things, and then I kind of thought, well, why couldn't I bring that into the wrestling ring? I mean, circus is where pro wrestling was basically born. So I thought, why not bring that, kind of full circle and come right back around as if, would the circus be like if wrestling and the circus never split ways back in the day, but fast forward to modern day where the sort of gloves are off and let's see what we can do. That's sort of how I like to look at it in my mind's eye.
That's great. Now, I know you've got the current crew together. You're going to be doing the big December 12th event here in East LA. Tell us about some of the characters. I see you've got Black Santa versus Zombie Jesus. Talk about some of your characters that are in the current crop of the freak show wrestling.
Well, our Santa versus Jesus shows, this will be our third one, and they've been pretty crazy. Actually, I'm sorry, I lied. It'll be our fourth one. And they're always pretty crazy. We always do something different, and somehow that is like our biggest draw show. Like we could have different wrestling legends on the show or different superstars or what have you, but for some reason, everybody wants to see what kind of shenanigans is going to happen when Jesus and Santa butt horns. We've had John Morrison, who is Johnny Mundo off of Lucha Underground. He's a former WWE, ECW, superstar. And for him to dress up as Jesus and wrestle Santa Claus was a pretty funny thing. Like, well, everything that I see in freak show wrestling is, it's some parts are fun, some parts are silly, some parts are sexy, some parts are scary. Just sort of whatever the mood and the idea that is kicking around my little rat trap of a brain, And I like to do things different every time. So this time, we're going to have a zombie Jesus, and there might even be a gay Jesus jumping in at some point and all this stuff. And, the gloves are off, and the fans get to bring the weapons, so that means the wrestlers are very, very, very improv. So when people hear wrestling, they think, oh, it's fake, oh, it's choreographed. Well, no, it's not. It is fictional, and, some of us might not hate each other backstage, but we're out there hitting each other pretty damn hard, and we do take care of each other for safety's sake. But, when something looks like it hurts, it probably hurt. But when the fans are allowed to bring in, the most ridiculous of weapons, whether they bring me, a pitchfork or a blender or a TV set or a picture frame or a toilet plunger, I don't know. So that performer really has to figure out what kind of fun shenanigans can we do with said foreign objects. So I think that will make for a really fun time. The fans bring the weapons matches. We do once in a while, and they always seem to be a big draw for the fans. So.
Sure.
It makes them interactive. It really makes them part of the story. And some of my former coaches and Russell Stoll, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, he was a master of bringing the fans, literally, like psychology-wise, right into the match with you. Like you felt like you were along for that ride. That's why you loved him so much.
That is amazing. Now, growing up, loving wrestling, loving the monster movies, loving the famous monsters and all that, but also loving shock rock. I mean, we got Rob Zombie doing his show these days, and of course we all grew up with Kiss and Alice Cooper and all that. But then this crazy group, of maniacs called Gwar, came out of Virginia in the '80s, and Techno Destructo is a part of this event. Talk about your collaboration with the great Hunter Jackson and what he brings to the Freak Show?
Well, when I look at wrestling and I see wrestlers that emulate other wrestlers that they looked up to, my spectrum of taste is much more vast. Like, I would look at, comic books and movies and music and art, not just wrestling. Like, I would take a little bit of Green Goblin, a little bit of Dee Snider, Rob Zombie, a little bit of, Joker and so forth. And, I mean, how can you not love the band Gwar? I mean, that was so innovative, not just for its time, but it's innovative now. I mean, who can touch, a rock band that is from outer space, dressed in all these crazy monster costumes, eating people and turning humans into slaves? I mean, it's awesome, and for me to have the opportunity to work with Hunter, he came on in one of my earlier Freak shows, and we just, we instantly hit it off. Our tastes and our ideas were so, I won't say the same, I will say succinct. We just really played off of each other, and we really amused each other, and I think we both got each other very, very quickly, that our ideas made each other ideas better. I can't speak for him, but I can definitely speak for myself when Hunter challenges me and really helps me, come up with the best ideas I can come up with, because I almost don't want to disappoint him. I got to think of some badass idea. I can't just half-ass something. Hunter's going to call me on it. Hunter's going to say, no, man, try it like this, do this, and I love that. I love, when he sort of spurs that intergalactic horse, that's freaking Techno Destructo. I mean, he's, one of the creators of Gwar. I mean, how awesome is that to have him in a wrestling ring fighting whatever ridiculous character, I pit against him. I mean, it's awesome seeing that big giant robot arm of his, crushing down on somebody's brains and all that stuff. It's awesome.
That is incredible. So you've got basically a vivid imagination. You've got a marriage of athleticism and just outrageous creativity here, with the characters, the costumes, and all that. Where would you like to take this? Obviously, we're encouraging everyone to come out December 12th, East LA, and go to your Facebook page, of course, under Freak Show Wrestling Official. But where's the future? Where would you like to take this?
Well, not unlike Gwar, I would like to take over the world. I want to see Freak Show wrestling on everything. I want to see movies and TV shows and lunchboxes and action figures and toys and video games. I want to see everything. I think Freak Show wrestling is something that everybody can enjoy. If you like wrestling, you'll like Freak Show wrestling. If you hate wrestling, you'll probably love Freak Show wrestling. Like, you certainly don't need to be a wrestling fan. Like, if you like South Park and Tosh Point oh, and, crazy rock music and just funny stuff, and you want to challenge yourself and think out of the box and just parody life and just enjoy and have a laugh, then you will be totally down with Freak Show wrestling.
Well, that is amazing. Now, obviously, we're telling them about the Facebook. I know you also have a Facebook page for the actual event here on December 12th. Where can everybody go to get tickets?
Yeah, everybody can find us on Eventbrite under Freak Show Wrestling, and all the links will be on the Facebook page, Freak Show Wrestling Official. And then we also have Twitter, and that is SINN's Freak Show, and SINN is spelled with two N's. It's SINNS Freak Show.
Well, SinnBodhi, it's been a real pleasure turning everybody on to Freak Show Wrestling. Can't wait to come out. Not only see Techno Destructo from the mighty Gwar, but Black Santa versus Zombie Jesus. What better way to get ready for the holidays? Thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to see you at the show.
Thank you so much, brother.